Pittsburgh Steeler fans, ho! Week 10 is almost over with a Monday Night Football game, but I gotta tell you, wow, yesterday was a crazy, ugly game, and that's just because of the weather. I was there, and ouch! So I am hungover from that as well. This is the Steelers Hangover. We've got so much to talk about because of the tie. We've got so much to talk about because of some crazy accusations towards a Steelers backup quarterback from the beginning of the game, from pregame, and we've got so many injuries to talk about. We've got to talk about the tie in general, and we've also got to talk about the play of the team, a rash of fumbles, and not to mention a whole bunch of injuries and a couple positive COVID tests. So before we do that, we got to welcome in Steeler Chick 46, the first one in, as we always do. Welcome to SC46. And alongside me is Shannon White and Tony Defeo. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I don't seem convinced, Tony, on that, but we'll get to that in a second. Shannon, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. I'm just putting this tie behind us.
Okay.
Just put it behind us and moving forward.
I know everybody's upset over the tie. Ugly ties are only for Father's Day. I get that. But I am just going to say this. The Browns had... Are you glad you're not a Browns fan today?
Always.
I mean, gosh, yeah, that's very true. Man, somebody's buying somebody a Coke. I'm going to tell you that. Man, that was ugly. Cardinals got destroyed. They didn't have their quarterback either.
The Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers lost. And speaking of the Cardinals, I would be in the Final Four if they would have won of the Survivor pool from BTSC, but I got knocked out. I made it all the way to the top 10, and I got knocked out. I believe there's 4 left in game 1, which I was involved in. But anyways, man, it was crazy. You had so many upsets, not to mention that the Ravens got upset. Hey, the Steelers, in a lot of people's opinion, got upset yesterday because they tied. You can look at it that way. That's fine. Like I said, I understand if you're disappointed in the way they played next week. But, man, I've just got to say, I'm glad we're just upset about a tie and not an L. What do you think, fellas?
I mean, I guess we don't have to worry about tiebreakers the rest of the year. Now, that's one good thing to come out.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't have to worry about watching that. But, yeah, I mean, when you have your quarterback go on the COVID list less than 24 hours before the game, and the backup has to go in, and rainy, sloppy conditions, couldn't stop the run all game. But at the end of the day, he still put them in position to win in overtime, and they just fumbled. I would have loved to see Boz have a chance from around the 40.
So we're going to talk about Mason Rudolph's performance. We're going to talk about the bad tackling. We're going to talk about all of that because I have some strong things to say for and against the team here. I'm not going to pull any punches. Shannon, your thoughts, initial reaction. What are you going to blame the most for the tie?
The most was being out with COVID. There was opportunities there to be had, and I believe they would have capitalized on them. Otherwise, you can't overstate the importance of his leadership, especially with these young guys. And you just had a huddle full of young guys and backups and inexperience, and it showed at times on both sides of the ball. But I would say being out, and then when TJ went out.
Okay, so let me go ahead and address this because I know there was a lot of question about this, and we're going to bring in our very own, not bring him in, but we're going to bring up a comment from our great friend, Big Bro Sco. It's Bad's fault he was there. Absolutely. Now, what I'm getting the most flack from is being there and wearing a shirt. My gosh, I had 5 or 6 layers, and I've been in 35-degree weather before, and it doesn't bother me. But when you throw that rain in the mix, I ended up wearing a red poncho over my TJ Watt Batman jersey. And,
It was you.
And I was dying. And well, no, it was. I did that at halftime. So, but I was absolutely freezing. So I am not going to apologize for. I am not going. Hey, they did not lose because I wore a shirt. Let's just say that. But and here's the thing: nobody wants to see me shirtless at a game. I mean, my family has to walk in and see me with like nacho dip on my chest when I'm watching the game, and that's actually that doesn't happen. But you know, we're not gonna do that. I will promise to go shirtless if I'm watching from my living room. So I think that's what it works, because they did win when I wasn't there, and I was wearing a shirt because I was at someone else's house. I don't want to do that. But yes, as Steeler Chick 46 asked, is Bad going shirtless Sunday night? I'll go shirtless if I'm at home. That's no problem. But really, I don't think anybody in the live chat, anybody in Steeler Nation, anybody really wants to see this body exposed from the shirt up, from the pants up, belt up, whatever you want to call it. So now George Teston says at least wear a bib, Bad. Yeah, that's yeah, that would be even worse. So, hey, I just put you off of food thinking about it dripping on my chest. So we're doing good. All right. So with that being said, the name of this show is Steelers Kiss an Ugly Sister in tie with Detroit. Now, something I do want to say here, and I've got to make sure I don't want to offend anybody. So Shannon, I know I said that about kissing a sister. I'm not talking about your home state of West Virginia whatsoever. I just want to say that. So if I insult you, I'm going to give you a chance right now to let me know if I'm insulting you here.
No, I have no problem with that. I don't have a sister. So I've only kissed other people's sisters, so I ain't worried about it.
All right, good. So the thought of me shirtless is so much better now.
Yes.
So here's the thing now. Tony, you're going to appreciate this. You're a huge Seinfeld fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I am allowed to make fun of the state of West Virginia because I lived there for 9 years. Just like Tim Whatley, the dentist from season 7 or 8 of Seinfeld, was able to make jokes because he was converting to Judaism. So I know you love that show. So who played the great Tim Whatley?
Bryan Cranston. And I think Seinfeld was right. He was doing it for the jokes. He was converting for the jokes.
So that's it. I'm only making fun of West Virginia, for the jokes. I had a great 9 years in West Virginia. No problem. Even the marriage and the divorce in West Virginia. So that's pretty good too. And it was not to my sister because my sister was in Pennsylvania, so I was okay. And of course, Steelers Freak brings it up. Breaking Bad. And if you don't know, if you've never watched the show Breaking Bad, man, that show's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Have you watched that, Tony? Because you love it too? And I know Shannon's saying yes.
Oh, it's a classic. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched the first episode, the original episode, I guess in 08. And I thought, that's a pretty good show. And then for some reason, I never watched it again. And then like 5 years later, I find out it's the greatest show of all time. So I had to binge it on Netflix a few years ago.
Yeah, that show's absolutely incredible. And if you don't know Bryan Cranston from that, you should know Bryan Cranston from Malcolm in the Middle, which he played the dad, Hal, on Malcolm in the Middle. Pretty good stuff there, too. So with that being said, let's get into a less happy discussion, and it is the tie. But I'm going to try to turn this tie around into something fun. We'll just go ahead and do that. So here we go. Let's get into this. Now, Shannon said he's going to go ahead and blame Big Ben for the COVID. And not not blame Big Ben, but blame the absence of Big Ben. Excuse me. I want to make sure I correct that. The absence of Big Ben as the main reason that they lost that game. Shannon, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. I'll get to that a little bit. Tony, what's your thoughts?
I mean, having Ben in there certainly could have made a difference. I mean, some of the throws that Rudolph made, like the open throw to Ray when he was open in the end zone. I mean, that probably should have been a touchdown. But like I said, at the end of the day, Rudolph put them in position to win in overtime. He didn't play a great game, but he put them in position to win, and they just coughed the football up twice. And that last call, I kind of put on the coach, whether it's Tomlin or Matt Canada. Why are you trying to gain a couple extra yards on that quick out to Freiermuth, and he wasn't going to get out of bounds, so they were going to have to frantically get up there and spike the ball for. So to me, I think after was it Deontay Johnson that play, I think they should have went for a field goal.
Okay, I hear you there. Now look, I'm going to blame it on a lot of things here. Sure, I'm going to go ahead. I'll throw some blame. I'm not going to completely shut Shannon out and say that Ben's absence didn't make a difference, because it did make a difference. Mason Rudolph was okay. I'm not going to say he was terrible. He did some things that were really good. He did some things that Ben couldn't do with that huge run, and he looked pretty good in some instances. But most of the time, he was eh. But I will say this, and Tony, you're bringing up the bounce pass to James Washington. Terrible. And I mean, inexcusable.
Right.
I will say that. But I'm probably not making him the dud of the week. And if you haven't checked out that column on behindthesteelcurtain.com, go ahead and check that out. I'm not gonna say that he is the dud of the week. He was just a part of it. A lot of people are wanting to blame the defense, and I tell you what, I'm right there as far as the defense as well. And I'm not sure what that noise is. Am I the only one hearing a very strange noise in the background?
Yeah, I hear it too.
I do not know what that is. I'm in a pretty not sterile room, but I'm not sure whether that's going through the system or not. That's very odd. But anyways, I will just say that I thought the defense was terrible.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to stopping the run. However, that defense in most of the third quarter and the fourth quarter I thought were pretty good. I thought it was decent enough. I'm not completely jumping on the Devin Bush. I'm not at all. I'm saying completely. I'm not jumping on the Devin Bush hate whatsoever yet. I'm not ready to do that. But there's a lot there. The big thing to me, I thought the play calling, and I usually don't go against the play calling a lot, but I thought yesterday it wasn't that good. So with that being said, gentlemen, that's where we could put the blame so many places. But I will go back to the fact that it's not a tie. It's not a loss, excuse me. It's not a tie. Sorry, I'm a little I'm a little distracted right now. There's a weird noise in the background. And hey, guess what? Actually, this makes me feel good. I probably shouldn't do this. I'm going to bring somebody up. Joseph Malaysia says boring. I'm hoping he's saying that about the Steelers offense, because I'm sure he's not saying that about us.
Well, he's on Facebook, so it's a possibility.
He's on Facebook.
Yeah, so it could be about us.
Well, I think it is, because he's saying jump on a treadmill. So I must be being fat shamed here. Oh, right, well, gosh. Wow. All right, I'll take that. Yeah, I really should jump on a treadmill.
You know what? I mean,
that's true.
Since Joseph's on Facebook, I have to commend you for spelling everything right. Good job, buddy. Good job.
No, wait. We've got some good Facebookers here. I will definitely say that.
But there's a bad one right
Todd,
there.
we've got Todd, Charles, Stacy, Lynn. I mean, I'm looking through Terry. We've got some. And if I'm not, I don't want to go up against them because they're pretty good. And here's this thing: we've got Craig. We've got some good Tina. We've got some good Facebookers. Even Big Brosco's a Facebooker, and we know he gets spelled. We've got Jerry here, and here's something interesting though. So if you're on Facebook, Don's here. What's up, Don? If you're on Facebook, you don't know what the people from in the live chat from YouTube saying. And if you're on YouTube, you can't see anything from Facebook unless we bring them up. So I am going to go ahead and bring those up. Hey, I appreciate Debbie coming in. Charles too. Hey, look, not everybody's gonna like me. I'm if you meet me, you might like me because I think I'm cool to hang out with. I have a persona here at BTSC, as we all do, and you're not gonna agree with us. But if you're gonna sit behind your little keyboards and you're gonna rip on us, that's fine. Try doing this. Not exactly easy. So probably stuff I shouldn't do. I shouldn't react to that. But I've kind of had it lately with that. Hey, Bert, there's Bert, my aloha buddy from Maui. He's in here too. So definitely appreciate everybody coming in. No problem, but I could jump on a treadmill. I could mix in a salad there. I guess I will, Joseph, Big Joe. I'll go ahead and do that. But I tell you what, do me a favor. Send me your personal information so I can dig into your life, and I'll go ahead and see if I could find some holes in it and make fun of you. No, second thought, I won't do that because I'm not a wang. So Joseph, I guess what? Here we go.
You know
what we're doing?
About Joseph?
Blocked, gone.
Good.
You're out of here.
What I like about Joseph more than anything is he's really creative. With his insults. Anyway.
So, yeah. Hey, tell the fat guy he's fat. Sure. I mean, like I don't know that. All right. Here we go.
What do you think of that, Joseph? Anyway, go ahead.
No, he didn't talk about. He just wants to talk about the boring fat guy. So, all right, I'm going to stop talking about this because I don't want to do this to the rest of you. You're here for Steeler stuff, and I'll go ahead and give you Steeler stuff. That's no problem. I get this a lot. And my wife yells at me. Jeff Hartman yells at me, quit reading the comments. And then I stop a while. Then I start reading them because there's a lot of good comments. And then I just go crazy. And now I've become the guy because I'm almost 50. I'm in my last month of being in my 40s.
December 3rd.
And thank you. And I'm kind of hitting a wall where I'm just cranky. And I've never been I'm the jolliest guy around. I have a former coworker called me. I love it. Called me Jolly Bryan. I have got to bring this one up. This is great. I have enjoyed colonoscopies to include the prep more than Steelers games this year, yet I keep coming back. That's awesome.
That's a good way to put it.
So, anyways, yeah, I think I'm losing my mind. And I think the Steelers are helping me lose my mind, but I'm not going away. Just like the colonoscopies. Steelers freaks not going away. So anyways, but yeah, December 3rd's coming up way too soon. So I think I'm losing my mind, and I might be losing my filter. Because I know my mom has lost her filter, and I hope she's not watching this. She watches. But Big Brosco says, Bad will be screaming at the kids, get off of my lawn. I don't know if I have no problem if you're going to be cool. If you don't pee on my grass, you can be on my lawn. I don't care. All right, let's get back into this. So much to talk about with the Steelers here and with the tie. You know what we talked about last week? Letdown games. We talked about the dreaded trap game. I think the letdown game and the trap game went out the door when you found out that Ben wasn't going to play and you knew you weren't going to have Chase Claypool. Right. Then in that game, then what we're going to do in that game, actually, you know what? Let me address this. Raymond Santiago, we will address Devin Bush, I promise you. I've seen you mention it a couple times. Yes, we will definitely address you as well. That is a great question, and I love it. It's about Devin Bush. So we will definitely do that. But when I look at this game, as soon as Ben went out, my dad's involved with he's a member of the Marine Corps League, and I went to the Marine Corps Ball the other night. And I was walking in, I had my keys in my pocket and my Steeler lanyard was hanging out. And I met some season ticket holders, Jay and Lori, and they were talking to me. And in the middle of the ceremony, I see this come across on our Slack channel that no Ben in the COVID test. And as soon as they were done speaking, I ran over to tell my new friends this, and they were like, "Whoa, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So this actually stops becoming a trap game then, because now you have Mason Rudolph in there, and you don't have him. You don't have Chase Claypool either. And so then I'm watching the introductions, and these are two offensive players, and I'm watching the introductions, and I love how they save Minka, TJ, then finally the last guy to come out is Cam. They save them to the end. But I'm looking at some of these guys coming out. And I mean, of course, I knew I was going to see names such as James Pierre, and I knew I was going to go ahead and see names like on the offensive line, defensive line, Isaiah Buggs, and then Chris Wormley. But I'm watching this come out, and I was like, wow, there's a whole lack of stars here. But that's okay. There's a lot of youth, and you're thinking, okay, they're gonna be fine. They're still gonna be fine, and they came out looking pretty good. Then all of a sudden, they just were not good against the run. Right. And then the offense, it started to fall apart for the offense. But for me, the biggest part of this game is you've already lost Ben. You've already lost Chase Claypool. And then going down in that game, two offensive line and your two guards are gone. Then you lose your star corner in Joe Hayden. And besides Trey Turner, besides Kevin Dotson, and then Joe Hayden, who goes out next? It's TJ Watt. Gentlemen, would you agree that TJ Watt is the franchise at this point?
Absolutely. I mean, he's the straw that stirs the drink. Like I said, after the groin injury he had, and he missed some time. Yeah, and without him, I mean, making dynamic plays and saving games like you saw against Seattle, and just being a constant disruptive force. It makes that defense even less dynamic, and of course they're having a well of a time being opportunistic this year. So without Watt, that makes it even worse. So yeah, I mean, without him, it's difficult.
Shannon, I took some flack in the live chat last week because I mentioned that TJ Watt is over 60 sacks now. I believe he is 61, 61 and a half now, and the record is 80 and a half by James Harrison. And the fact that he could also break James Harrison's single season record. And people are like, we need to talk about wins. We don't need to talk about stats and records. It's like, no, all I'm saying is that this is what this guy's done in his career to become a face of the defense. And I don't think the Steelers have had a true face of the defense for a long, long time that is doing what he's doing. Cam is so important. Mink is so important. But I think that that this is a guy with the motor and the youth to really look at for the next decade. So that's why I'm bringing him up. But Shannon, when you heard the news that he was going down, when you saw him laying on the turf, pointing to his hip, pointing to his knee, pushing his brother away. I mean, what was going through your head?
I thought initially that he'd broke his leg, because it was the whipping action where Schobert's leg hit him as he was coming around. And I told my wife, I said, I think he broke it. And I just, and remember last year when Dupree went out and what an impact that had. And what is the MVP, the most valuable player, without a doubt, on the Steelers? I guess Najee Harris would be number 2 at the moment. But, I thought it potentially could have been devastating. But then I seen him walk out of the tent, and they didn't take him immediately to the locker room. And those two things led me to believe that if they thought it was a chance it was an ACL, they'd have took him right in. And he was hardly limping, but you could tell he was hurting. But so I felt much better then. I figured he'd miss some time, but I was hoping it wouldn't be extended.
All right. I'm glad you said that because I'm sitting there at the game. I used to wear headphones at the game. I don't do that now. So I have no clue what's going on. I just see him laying on the turf. And I put a message into you guys saying, hey, could somebody tell me what they're saying on TV? Thanks. None of you answered me, by the way. I mean, you did. You did.
I was.
Yeah, it might have taken a while.
I was busy winning a bowling championship. I didn't have time to. I wasn't checking my phone really.
Okay.
Sorry.
Great. Anyways, I'm kidding. I mean, no, but I had no clue. And my nephew, who's going to be 15 next week, I took him for his birthday, and I don't want to take him to LA. I told him I'm not taking you to LA yet. I might take you to Vegas when you're 21, but not to LA yet when you're 15. So anyways, he looks at me. He's like, what's wrong? Is he out for the season? Is he this? I'm like, I don't know. I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at. I have no idea. And so, I mean, that's a sinking feeling when you have no clue. And it's probably even worse of a feeling with you watching the game because the broadcast crew is probably speculating what's going on. And so you don't know. Even Charlie Batch scared me after the game, driving home with a bunch of those guys saying, hey, they didn't come back in the game, so it's bad news. So the news that we get today, fellas, we got some what we think is pretty good news because we heard day-to-day on Joe Hayden. We heard the phrase that we heard last week with Chase Claypool, week to week on Chase Claypool. Now it's week to week on TJ Watt, week to week on Kevin Dotson, and no news on Trey Turner, which I think Trey Turner is very important to this team as well. But we haven't heard the news. And if we have heard the news, please let me know. I may have missed that. But all I'm going to say is this. Those 4 injuries could have been so much worse.
Right.
We already thought last week that we were losing Chase Claypool for the year. So even though that we hear day to day or week to week, are you satisfied with that because it's not the worst case scenario? Or are you thinking that it's still going to be a long time, Shannon?
No, as far as what they said that it's basically soreness and pain, nothing structural. I'm sure there's some bruising, but they said there's no guarantee he won't play against the Chargers. So I believe that a lot of times if it's just a pain threshold, problem, I believe he could even be back, against the Chargers or the next week. Now, the high ankle sprain that Dotson has is more concerning because, that's a 3 or 4 week, even for an offensive lineman, a lot of times recovery. So there's no guarantee that the COVID guys is going to make it back for the Chargers either. So, every team has to go through it. And I always said the who has the good fortune and good health usually is who are the most successful teams during the season. So, but no, it wouldn't shock me if Watt doesn't play against the Chargers.
All right. So here's some guys to bring up here, and they're asking it on the live chat as well. The COVID guys, Minka and Ben. Now, it's so funny. It seems like Ben was diagnosed with COVID a week ago, but It's about 48 hours that he's been diagnosed with COVID. So the 10 days is not going to come into effect here. So he has to be positive. Excuse me. I'm sorry. He has to test negative the next couple of days. I still, man, this messes me up all the time with positive and negative. Just like Seinfeld when George thought he had cancer, skin cancer. By the way, that was my favorite season. That was season 3. What's that?
That was the
Lupus?
Office. No, that was the Office.
No. Yeah, but I mean that's fine. But no, but when George in season 3 during the pilot season, they're like, your test came out positive, and he's like, no, trust me, it's the Joe Davola episode, and the anyways, I kind of say positive all the time when you think positive's a good thing, and when he found out that it was negative, anyone crazy. So with that being said, he still has to test negative twice. Minka very well could test negative twice, but you just don't know with each one of these guys. So with that being said, you might have to I would think that because of those 2 days, you might have a better chance of seeing Ben back, but it's just whatever happens with those tests. But as far as the other guys, there's a possibility that you see TJ and there's a possibility that you see Joe Hayden, but I don't know if you see the other two guys because, gosh, we don't even have word on Trey Turner yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what do you think that they're going to do as far as preparation for this? Now, the reason I'm going to ask you that is we bring up, when I say we, the Steelers went ahead and they're already looking at even starting either Norwood or Carl Joseph at safety. And one of the guys in our Slack chat, I think it was Michael Beck, brought up, well, looks like they think he's going to be out. You've got to prepare like he's going to be out, don't you, Shannon?
Yes. You hope for the best, but you prepare for the worst. So Norwood has some experience there. Very limited, obviously, as a rookie, and Carl Joseph has professional experience. So neither one of them is going to be able to, replace Fitzpatrick and everything he brings to this team. Even though he hasn't been getting as many turnovers and interceptions, his tackling has improved as the years went along, and he's had some excellent coverage and played some good run defense and on the back end. So, but yeah, you have to, like you said, you have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
I want to bring up Rands here. Rands 87 IROC Z. And I think COVID protocol is 14 days, which normally that is. But in the NFL, if you're vaccinated and Ben is vaccinated, it's 10 days. Tony, is that correct?
Yeah, it's different when you're with a vaccinated player. So that's the one good thing about these positive tests. As long as these guys are vaccinated, they just basically just have to test negative, I guess, a couple times within a window, and then they'll be able to play.
So, just like everything, just like it could have been a good thing that the Lions did not have time to prepare for Mason Rudolph, and sometimes it's a good thing for the Steelers, the same, to bring a guy in and have him start as a backup, because I think backup quarterbacks do together are better when it's a surprise. But one thing the Steelers do when they have more time to have a guy prepare, they do better. I remember 2 years ago when we're finding out that Duck Hodges is going to play his first game against the Los Angeles Chargers, where the Steelers don't do well on the West Coast, and he goes in there and he beats them in primetime on Sunday Night Football. So I don't, and not only did he beat them, he also beat them with a great game by Benny Snell Jr. too. So there's things to look at. Nothing's the end of the world because other teams get injuries too, but you just don't want to lose some guys like you've lost And that's what they're going to go ahead and look at. So much more to talk about the tie, about personnel, what the Steelers are going to do next week. And we're going to talk more about that, but we're going to go ahead and take a break. So if you're hanging out here on Facebook or YouTube, just, stick around. If you are one that likes to download our show and listen to it on the audio side, well, we just ask you to switch on over to number 2. It's as simple as boop. We will be back right after this on the Steelers Hangover from BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Welcome back to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. It's the Hangover. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. Alongside me are Shannon White and Tony Defeo. So much to talk about here. That game yesterday, man, I had a horrible time at the game only because of the rain. I thought it was an entertaining football game. I thought they had them the whole way. I knew that it was going to be a tough game because you're dealing with a hungry Detroit team. I loved what the Steelers did on defense against Jared Goff. They could not pass the ball at all. I think he ended up with 60 with an overtime, ended up with 60 yards passing. I was not worried at all with everything that was going on, even when they were lining up to kick. But the big thing that everybody's talking about, and they should be talking about, are turnovers, fellas. So let's talk about the turnovers in this game. The Steelers turned the ball over 3 times. Let's start with the first one. Mason Rudolph's interception. Tony, I'll let you take this one first. How bad was that for you?
I think that changed the momentum of the game because they went right down the field and scored the first drive, and he looked pretty good. He looked like he was in command, and that's interception that I think that changed him, and I think it affected his mindset, and I think it affected his confidence. He really wasn't quite the same after that. I mean, he got it together a little bit later on, but he wasn't the same after that interception.
Shannon?
It flipped momentum. The defense had a good series, and they scored on the first series. I think that it was just a very efficient and effective game plan. And so you really felt like that they could build off that. And like Tony said, Mason was really zoned in and really confident. And then, player personnel changes, Balaj comes in and it wasn't a good pass. But it's impossible for him to have chemistry with all these players, especially being his first action of the season. I wanted to see him lean more on Harris because he was being very successful. And I believe if they would have continued to rely on Harris, they would have won the game rather easily. But throwing the ball 50 times with your backup quarterback in his first action of the season is not a recipe for success. It's a recipe for disaster. And we're lucky to end up with a tie. Somebody had put in the comments earlier, the Lions really should have beat the Ravens, and they lost by 1 point. I think it was to the Bills. So they have, been competitive in some games this year. And so the Steelers were really fortunate to get out with the tie.
Tony, let's talk about the play calling in this game. We're going to get back to the other turnovers. But real quick, I thought a lot of the play calling was egregious. And I thought Shannon just brought up the fact that, you're close, you're inside the 5, you got a first down, and you don't go to Najee at all at that point. Najee had 105 yards over 105, and he seemed to have been running well. I thought the offensive line, and we're not even talking about this. The offensive line has been such. The last week, everyone was talking about how they reverted. I thought they reverted back to being a lot better. They gave Najee some holes. I don't feel like Mason was running for his life whatsoever, so I would actually give them a pretty good grade. But Tony, why aren't they using Najee there?
It didn't make any sense to me. To me, that you're down 16-10. This is why you bring a guy like that in. This is why you draft a running back in the first round for situations like yesterday. For the fact that you have a backup quarterback in there, you want to lean heavily on that guy. And yeah, he had 26 carries, but you also have to factor in there was 5 full quarters too. But yeah, you're first and goal from the 5. He runs so hard. He moves the pile just about every time he gets the ball. And I would have loved to see him get the ball twice there, and maybe throw on third down. Okay, fine. But you have to lean on your workhorse bell cow running back in that situation. And to me, that was a mistake. And the fact, again, that, like Shannon said, you're throwing 50 times with your backup quarterback in the rain. That's why you have Najee Harris. That's why you have a big time running back like that for situations like yesterday. And I think that was the first time, really, I think Matt Canada looked bad as a play caller.
Now, it was just mentioned, Charles Wigan just mentioned that hold was a killer. Yeah, that hold on Najee's touchdown, that destroyed this team. And it really did. But there's so many things to talk about, and I agree with you. They need to rely on Najee because Najee's becoming the guy. You can just say, hey, we're going to hand it off to Najee, and you stop him. And dare you to stop him. I mean, give him the play. Say it's going to Najee. What can you do? I mean, I know that's easier said than done, but I'm bringing up a point that he is that darn good.
Right.
Shannon, let me ask you this. The next 2 killers were the fact that they fumbled late in the game. One was Deontay Johnson. One was Pat Freiermuth. Were they trying to do way too much after the ball? I mean, after the catch? Or is it just the fact that they aren't good enough to hold on to the ball just yet?
Johnson, his fumble was very similar to Juju's fumble a while back against the Ravens that ended up costing the Steelers a game at home. And, you can't – no player's perfect, and you can't fault a guy giving 110%. Johnson made an excellent catch, stayed in bounds, cut inside, and was on the precipice of getting, in field goal range. And the guy come from behind, Gilbert, who used to be with the Steelers, and he probably learned that punch and that ball out from TJ Watt. He comes from behind and punches the ball out. And so that's the first fumble. The second fumble, Freiermuth, on a questionable call, as Tony said earlier, was just trying to go forward and get out of bounds, and the defender come in and put his helmet right on the ball. Now, anybody that's ever played, you could say what you want, but it's almost impossible to hold that ball sometimes when that helmet hits the ball from that angle. So both plays were effort plays. It wasn't because Johnson was carrying the ball out here to his side. He was trying to make a play to help win the game. And both of them guys have been 2 of the most valuable offensive players for the Steelers this year. And they have to lean on them moving forward. I have no problem. I have more problem with the lack of effort displayed by a lot of the defenders throughout the game, especially with their physicality. They're trying to get off blocks and to make technical tackles, clean tackles. That was way more aggravating and upsetting to me than the 2 turnovers where guys were trying to give extra effort and it didn't work out.
So let me ask you this, Tony. And it was just said in the live chat, and it was Bert who brought it up. And let me get back to it. Deontay had to know that you hold that ball with 2 hands and just get in field goal range and game over. So my thing is, it's just like knowing where you are and knowing to not go out of bounds. And you see some players, they could run straight in the end zone, but they know it's safer to just go down, to not give them more time and a chance to get the ball back. So all I'm saying is, do you think he could have been more careful with that?
I mean, I don't really I mean, I fault the fumble. I mean, that was a obviously that helped cost you, but I don't blame his his technique there. I just think he was, like Shannon said, I mean, he made a heck of a catch on the sideline. He was trying to gain extra yards and maybe go all the way for a touchdown. And the defender just made a great play. Mm-hmm. I have more of a problem, honestly, with the second fumble, because I don't even know why that play was called. Honestly, if you're looking to get Boz more closer, and you're looking to throw a sideline pass, throw it to where if the receiver doesn't catch it, I mean, if the receiver catches it, he goes right out of bounds. But why that play was called there, I don't know what they were trying to accomplish. That's the bigger problem. And again, I don't really fault Freiermuth for his effort. It was just, I don't know what they were trying to do there with that play. It just didn't make any sense to me. You're gaining an extra couple yards there. What difference did it make at that point? So I had a bigger problem with the Freiermuth fumble simply because of the play called.
And I will say this too, the way Boz has been kicking lately, and I'm right under the goalpost when he kicked that 50-yard. Was it a 50-yarder or a 52-yarder?
51.
51. When he kicked that, I'm looking right up at it, sail over my head. You know what I mean? It looked like it would have sailed way over my head. That's how well he hit that yesterday. I would have loved to have seen him, attempt a 60-something. And because, that's a situation. Sure, you take the tie, but if you don't kick a 60-yarder, no one's going to be down on you as much than throwing him where he threw that. So I would agree with that. I want to address something that Shannon just said, and this is a part of me not being able to watch the game at home. When you said Gilbert, was that Mark Gilbert that you're talking about? That wow,
he come back
I think that's awesome for that kid. I'm really glad that really glad for him, because he was my free agent, undrafted free agent crush that I really liked for this team, and I hope he does really well in this league. So we kind of addressed all of that. The thing that we've got to address, there's a couple more things I want to address, and something that everybody wants to talk about here. And it's the play of Devin Bush. And there's a lot of talk right now about the fact that Devin Bush, they're using the B word right now, and it's in his third year, but this is a guy that's coming off of a major knee injury, but it's been over a year now. Are we just impatient with the fact that he's not completely back because of it? Or is this a problem because he's just not up to it? Now, I want to bring up another guy before we talk about this. No one is ever going to call Ryan Shazier a bust. And I'm not trying to compare the two players, but what I'm trying to compare is the injury. There was an injury early on in his career that cost him the rest of his career. And I'm saying all I'm saying is, what if he was able to come back and not be able to play because of that injury? Or are we being too hard on Devin Bush Jr. right now? Is a question I want to ask.
I can answer that. No, I don't think we're being too hard on it. This is year 3. And the reason why I say that is because he really didn't show much as far as a playmaker before the injury last year. Like, he really hasn't been that dynamic of a player. And when you draft a guy like that in the 10th overall, and you trade away so much draft capital to do that, you're making it's a bold move, and you needed him to be at this point more dynamic. Now, maybe he is still dealing with the ACL. Maybe by now, if he wouldn't have suffered the ACL injury, he would have been that dynamic playmaker. Because as you said, Shazier took him. He had some injury problems early on, and by the time he but at the same time, by his second year, he was their best defender, even with his injury issues. I mean, remember that Bengals wild card game? He was the best player on the field. So I think by now I would have liked to see more of a splash play kind of player from him.
Yeah, and I understand, and it's mentioned, and I tried to put the disclaimer out there. Look, I realize, I know how more serious the Ryan Shazier injury was. But I'm just saying, if he would have been able to come back after that, obviously he would have not been the same. And that's what I was trying to say. But I do agree with you, Tony, that, and I'm going to take your word for it, that it's not the fact that we're being impatient. Shannon, your thoughts on that?
But it's getting to the point that the Steelers should be a little concerned.
Okay.
He's in my article posted tomorrow, he's my stock trending down because based on what they give up to give him, and I've tried not to be critical, even constructive criticism towards him where he is coming back from that knee injury. But you'll watch, his speed is returning. And he's covered some ground, which leads me to believe he's gained confidence in the knee. But he seems like he's allergic to contact. And he's getting caught up in the wash, taking bad angles. And it just keeps happening. And I will give him a break in one aspect. When you lose Tyson Alulu and you lose Stephon Tuitt, they kept those guys clean because they demanded double teams. And there was many times Bush was just filling the hole. And they wouldn't, if there wasn't a fullback, he was just meeting the runner. And so that has to impact him. So I think part of his play that has affected, but he's not the same player. The physicality part. And that's my biggest concern right now. And I think, I don't know if it's mental, physical, or both, but whatever it is, he's going to have to figure this out because they have so much invested in him. And when you pair him with Schobert's not an overly physical guy. He's not Vince Williams. And somebody mentioned it earlier in the comments that they may have to try Buddy Johnson for a few plays at least because Buddy Johnson is a physical player and he's a buck linebacker, which Schobert is not. And we have two guys that are more coverage backers, and Spillane has some limitations, but at least he's physical. But it's getting to the point that where we was really counting on Bush to be that answer, and that's why they moved up to get him. It just ain't panning out this year for whatever reason.
All right, I agree with that too. So maybe I'm being too apologetic for him. Now I want to bring this up before somebody brings it up in the live chat. Charles Wigan asked, "What's the deal with Tuitt? When will he be back?" We don't know, but there's something that is driving me crazy about the whole Tuitt absence. And I'm going to say this, and this could be controversial, and I'm fine. But Stephon Tuitt has never come out and said that I'm out because of the death of my brother. And if he is because of it, I have no problem with that. And I have no problem with Stephon Tuitt in any way here. But why are we constantly, everything I'm reading online, everybody's saying that that's the reason he's out? Mike Tomlin's never said it. He's never said it. His knee is probably not good enough. And then you hear all these people saying, well, I've had this everybody has death in their life. They need to go back to work. You know what? Really?
Yeah, that's been said several times. I've seen it myself.
So all I'm going to say is give the guy a break. We have got such a focus on mental health, and there's a lot of people that are following the whole in the Summer Olympics. A lot of people that were fine with Simone Biles picking her spots when she came back and when she didn't. And I'm not going against her on that because mental health's a big thing. But if it is mental health, stop it. Stop saying how he's handling it. But the bottom line of this whole thing, no one's ever said that. We're speculating that.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? Remember when they signed Ladarius Green, and people were wondering, was it the concussions or was it when he had like a foot surgery, and nobody would really say what it was. That's what this kind of reminds me of. Mm-hmm. So I guess they're apparently just, they don't want. I guess they're respecting his privacy, and I guess maybe we have to do that too.
No, and then Charles just said, "I'm just curious." No, Charles, you're allowed to ask. That's no problem. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying the speculation, and I wanted to say it quickly before somebody said, "Oh, he's out because of his brother," because we don't know if that's true. It's always, I mean, one of his college line mates drowned this year, and it was Lewis Nix, who was drafted by the Texans. He played at Notre Dame too. I mean, and somebody has brought that up as well. But the bottom line of the whole thing is, let's just not say that it must be this because he's out. But you know, it's been rough without Tuitt, and we need him to be back. But we, just like this, we can't fault him for what he's going through. Right. My gosh, I heard, and getting back to the Shazier situation from 4 years ago, and Tony and I, we were broken up about it, and we had to go on after that show, after that game on Blog Talk Radio after it happened. And I think Tony and I'll speak for Tony, we were scared to death. Yeah, because we didn't know whether he was going to actually, I mean, we were afraid that he could be a whole lot worse.
Right.
But how many people have criticized the fact that he played, or they tried to come up with the narrative that he played dirty and tackled recklessly, instead of the fact that, instead of the fact that, oh my gosh, there's always has to be a but, and sometimes there just doesn't have to be a but.
Right.
Sometimes we just need to say, you know, okay, I get it. I pray that everything goes right, and I pray that he comes back whole, and that's it. No matter what it is, if it's just the knee, that's, to me, it's the same as if he's mourning. I'm not putting a timetable on mourning. Isaac gives us $5 in the live chat, and it's true. I lost my pops a few months ago, and the last thing I wanted it to be was at work, and that's fine. And I'm glad you're saying that. And I don't know what I would be like if something happened to my wife, my kids. I still have my parents, and I'm blessed that I do have my parents. And Isaac, I remember when I believe you brought this up online before in the live chat, and your blessings to your family and blessings to you to feel better. And you're allowed to mourn any way you want. But the thing about it is, you're telling us about it, and people knew that you were hurting. This is not, we don't know the reason for we just don't know the reason for his absence. We're just assuming that this is why. Right. And it's just not that. So thank you for the $5, Isaac, and blessings to your family. So with that, one more thing I want to address here too, as well, is well, actually, there's two things I want to address, and we'll go ahead and get that. I want to talk about, well, we can actually do this all in one. That's perfect. So Rajan 39 gives us $1.99 in the tip jar. Thanks so much, Rajan. What's the deal with the James Morgan signing? So, guys, James Morgan was a 4th-round pick of the Jets back in 2020. And he was a really interesting guy that a lot of people were excited about. He's 6'6", and a lot of people thought he could be a sleeper quarterback. And there's a lot of people that thought that the Steelers could actually target him in that draft. Now, there is a thought that the fact that he's the same size as Herbert, Justin Herbert of the Chargers, that he's a good guy to come in, be on the practice squad, and go against this week to maybe get a feel of playing against a guy like that. But there's something else that I'm thinking, and Tyler W's thinking the same thing, so I'm going to let him say it first. James Morgan is because Dwayne Haskins was repeatedly not taking practice seriously and texting before the game. This was brought up on the Andrew Filipponi show on the Fan 93.7 with Aditi Kinkhabwala. And did I pronounce that right, Shannon? Mm-hmm. Kinkhabwala? Okay, well.
I think so.
Yay me. So basically, they said not only was he like texting, he was just throwing, just lobbing the ball, and looked like he wasn't taking this seriously. And she claims to have heard coaches being pretty sore about it, that he was out there doing that. Do I know if any of this is true? No. But this could be linked to that. Now, I just complained about speculation, but this is something that she's claiming that she's heard. So it's not speculation if she's making a claim on it. She could be wrong, but if the guy is one hit away from being the quarterback on the field in that game, and we've heard all these things about his work ethic, and there's been all these questions, that's got to be a major concern. Gentlemen, do you think that this is a message for Dwayne Haskins that, buddy, this is your last chance? Tony?
It could be. I mean, it sounds on brand, as they say nowadays, for what we've heard about Haskins in the past. Why he was kind of, why Washington gave up on him last year. I hate to see it because I really am intrigued by his talents, and everybody was when he came out 2 years ago. When he was drafted by Washington. So I hope it's not the case. But I mean, she's an insider, so I don't think she would say that. She gets enough flack as it is on Twitter, so I don't think she would say this if there wasn't some smoke to what if there wasn't some substance to the smoke she put out there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I think it could be that they're trying to send a message to him that you got to get your act together, or you're not going to get the second chance you thought you were going to get.
Shannon, Steelers Freak says Washington got rid of him for a reason. Mule Skinner says Haskins is a bust and should be moved from. Brian Brown says keep Haskins away from the beehive for heaven's sake. And if it wasn't for Haskins, we would not have that beehive joke on here. So thank you. So what I want to ask you is, you're the GM, Shannon. I'm giving you the hat. We'll swap lives and wives, and Kevin Colbert could live in your house for a week, and you're the Steelers GM. So with that being said, what are you doing with Dwayne Haskins if this is true?
I'm old school. I'm like Chuck Noll said, if I got to motivate you and give you a pep talk, I'll cut you. He's got a great opportunity in Pittsburgh with Roethlisberger more than likely walking away after this season. It's going to be an open competition, even if they draft a rookie quarterback in the first round, whatever they'd have to do that, or bring in a veteran. He would have the heads up, the advantage where he'd have experience with the offense. And he's got a great opportunity. But his past issues have been maturity and work ethic. That's been his two biggest ones. And Washington just said, okay, we've had enough. Rivera said, I don't want him around here. Guys like that can be like a cancer in the locker room, and it can permeate through the whole roster. We see what happened with Bell and with Brown, and they were great players. Haskins has accomplished nothing yet to feel that way and to be that entitled. I don't like reports where somebody's claims they heard something, or I'd rather she just kept that out of because it just creates unnecessary drama for the Steelers. She didn't even hear it directly from a coach or a Steelers personnel. So now we're talking about this, but it is concerning because of his past history. If Tomlin sees that as an issue, then it does not shock me at all. They brought Morgan in, as you say, to send a very clear and precise message.
So I want to bring up one of our very own, and Shannon, his name is Chris Pugh, and you may have heard of him. He's from the Steelers Power Half Hour. I'm just joking with you. I know you were fooling around when you said, who's Chris Pugh earlier on our Slack channel. So I
love him, man. I love you.
It's clear that they are not happy with how he is progressing. If he's checking his phone before Sunday's game and not seriously preparing for the game as a backup, he's not ready to play. And I will say this. I love Chris Pugh too, but I think that picture is from about 20 years ago, Chris. Come on, you've got to update that thing.
That's what I do on my dating profile.
Yeah, Tony's dating profiles from 1992.
That's right. I was going for the George Clooney look.
He's got flowing hair.
Yeah.
That's very true. But Charles Wigan brings up a very good question here. And he's just said, where's Dobbs? Dobbs is still on the practice squad. Is that correct?
Yeah, I forgot. I kind of forgot about him.
But isn't he injured on the practice squad? He could still be on the sidelines.
He's on the injured list.
Yeah, I think so.
He's on the injured list. Yeah. So that makes this even more interesting. But, the thing is, this could be a fact that they're trying to, they did this a couple years ago and I can't remember his name, but before they played, I forget who they were playing. No, they were playing the Ravens and they brought in a guy that was just cut from Dallas that was a running quarterback and they wanted to try to simulate what Lamar Jackson would be like in practice. And then he was cut the next week. I mean, could this be a situation where they're bringing him in to just emulate what you have in Mr. Herbert in Los Angeles? Or is this, something that they're looking to make a change with Dwayne? Or is this a little bit of both, guys? Tony?
I'm leaning towards it's more they're trying to find a person who can mimic Justin Herbert in practice. I'm leaning more towards that than the other thing because I really don't know much about Morgan. I know he was as you said, a 4th round pick a couple years ago, but I think
just last year he's young.
Just last year, yeah, he's young. I think it's that, and I think they're maybe looking to add, keep him around after this week, just to have another arm in any organization, because you never know. We saw with Ben Roethlisberger, you never know when you're going to lose a quarterback, and you might need an emergency quarterback on Sunday.
Very well, guys. We had so much to talk about here. I'm just going to go back to the beginning of the show and say, with everything that happened the last couple of weeks, with as bad as a lot of people feel that the Steelers played the last 2 weeks, and I'm not going to disagree with them, but the only thing I'm going to say is to get out of there with these two teams without a loss. And this, to me, this is kind of like the dreaded overtime loss in hockey, the shootout loss in hockey. You still get the point. Well, you're getting half a win here, basically in the column. You're getting half a loss too. And as Tony said at the beginning of the show, which I'm going to steal this from him all week long and take credit for it on Twitter. When he said, what did he say about the tie, Tony?
We don't have to worry about tiebreakers anymore. We don't have to read that list all November and December. We can just we don't have to worry about what the 7th tiebreaker is or anything like that. Just be a half a game ahead of the next team that for the playoffs.
Yes, the head-to-head tiebreaker is gone for the rest of the season, and we don't have to overthink, but we probably just lost about 7 to 10 shows on tiebreakers alone, so the tie took that away.
My bad.
Hey, thanks for everybody who came in on the show and checked us out. Look, we might come off as know-it-alls. We might come off as cocky sometimes, but one thing that we definitely are is we're fans, just like you. We are just lucky to have a platform, and we're blessed to have a platform, and we would not have this platform if it wasn't for each and every one of you. Even the guy who told me that I need to lose weight, basically, can't do it without you either. So thank you for all of you that take the time out when you see a notification across your screen to spend the night with us. And we appreciate it. And I mean, gosh, if you want to spend the night with Tony, we'll give you his phone number too. We can give you his digits. So we would be glad to do that. But thank you so much. What's that?
It would be better than Bumble. I can tell you that.
Is Bumble another one? I mean, gosh, swipe right, swipe left. I don't even know what that means.
Right. Exactly. Well, you're a lucky guy.
Anyways, we'll take the criticism and we'll take the pats on the back just the same. But the one thing we can't take is not being without you. So we need you to do 3 things for us. We need you to stay safe. We need you to stay true to yourself. And we definitely need you to stay behind the steel curtain. For Tony Defeo and Shannon White, my name is Bryan Anthony Davis. And just when you think that you've got all of the answers,
we keep changing the questions.
woo! Thank you so much. We love you, BTSC Nation. We'll see you next week. Go Steelers.